I've always had a problem with brand ambassadors and with all their product placement, especially in YouTube content. Therefore, today I'm going to talk about overly hyped fragrances, overly hyped perfumes. In the vast majority of the fragrances that I'm going to talk about, they are good fragrances, they are great fragrances. But are they actually that great? Are they actually that good that you need to run only to make sure that you're going to get a bottle out of those fragrances? And the short answer is no. No. They are good fragrances, but they are not that great. Therefore, let's talk about overly hyped fragrances that I have in my collection. And these are fragrances that you're going to see a lot in a lot of YouTube videos, in the online, no matter the social platform, promoted like crazy by different people saying that they are so cool, so great, so incredible. But do limit your expectations. Let's start with the first fragrance that, to me, is extremely overhyped. And this comes from the house of Tom Ford, from the private blend line. And you all know it. Tuscan leather. Yeah, this is the fragrance. Is it great? Yeah, it's good. It's a good fragrance. It performs well. It has good quality ingredients. But it isn't the greatest leather fragrance that you ever sniffed, or at least that I ever sniffed, because there are a lot of offerings on the market available that you can purchase and also wear, and also a bit cheaper than what Tom Ford is offering with Tuscan leather. This is about a very, very dark leather note combined with some raspberry. Nothing to write home about, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing fantastic and unique as you might think, seeing all the hype that it gets. It's a good leather fragrance, but nothing more. Good performance, good quality, very good for cool weather, especially for, I don't know, fall, wintertime and spring. But that's pretty much it. Nothing else. Next entry comes from the house of Creed. And most probably you know what fragrance I'm going to talk about. It's the one and only Aventus. Another great fragrance for what it is. It has a very beautiful pineapple note inside, but unfortunately, it isn't worth the hype. It isn't the best when it comes to performance. It actually is quite tricky, if you ask me, because it depends a lot on the batch number and whatnot, the lot number of the fragrance when it was produced and whatnot. What I have here gives me about 7 to 8 hours of longevity with, let's say, moderate projection and sillage. It has a very beautiful opening in which the pineapple actually shines. But it costs a lot, it's very pricey, and if you ask me, it isn't worth the money, especially when you have fragrances such as this one, who in my opinion are better in terms of quality and especially in terms of performance. Nishane Hachivat, for example. But there are others also, for example, the Merchant of Venice, Venetian Blue, or Venetian Blue Intense, for that matter. So, in my book, this isn't worth the hype. It's a good fragrance, it smells nice, it's a lot of people's, let's say, signature scent, but for me, it's quite an overly hyped fragrance. And from the house of Creed, there could be a lot more examples, such as this one, Silver Mountain Water. Again, a great fragrance, very nice smelling, very good ingredients. I actually get very good performance with this one. Not out of the ordinary, but quite good, better than with Aventus, but still, it isn't worth the hype. Another scent in this category that's extremely overhyped, in my opinion, comes from Tower, and it's called L'air du Desert Marocain. I honestly do not understand why this fragrance is so hyped. Don't get me wrong, it smells great, it has good ingredients, but performance-wise, it isn't extraordinary, it isn't a masterpiece, it isn't something that you've never encountered. It's quite basic, if you ask me. And also, I don't know where people sniff the desert in this one. This actually smells like a spice market. That's all. Actually, a quite faint spice market, if you ask me, because it isn't a strong performer when it comes to longevity, projection, sillage. It sits quite close to the skin, at least on my skin. And therefore, I do consider this one to be extremely overhyped. It isn't worth all the praises that you're going to get in the online. According to some people, this smells like the desert. Let me beg the differ. It doesn't smell like the desert. If you want to smell like the desert, here's one for you that smells like the desert. El Cosmico, Diez Andorga. Yeah, green, aromatic, sandy, dusty. Actually smells like the bushes that you can find in the desert. So that one actually does smell like the desert. Next entry in this list comes from the overly hyped and overly rated house of Lectimus. And this is called Jupiter. Yeah, this is considered by a lot of people to be an extraordinary fragrance, an incredible woody composition. To be honest with you, I do not share that opinion. For me, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This isn't a masterpiece. This isn't something that I never sniffed. This isn't something unique, creative, or challenging for that matter. It's in the veins of so many other fragrances just like this, with, let's say, somewhat the same composition. Yes, you get a lot of woods, but nothing spectacular. Performance-wise, it's a great fragrance. Quality-wise, it's a great fragrance, but again, nothing out of the ordinary. And it gets a lot of praises in the online. Every single time, at least that I've seen a video or a post about this fragrance, it was praised like crazy. But it doesn't compare to the next one, which is extremely overhyped. Yeah, Gerjov Mefisto Gentiluomo. I really do not understand why this is so overhyped. Perhaps because of the presentation, perhaps because of the bottle, which is actually quite stunning. But I'm not interested in the packaging when I'm buying a fragrance. I'm interested in the fragrance. And this one to me feels very unfinished. This is the flanker of the original Mefisto, which I actually have. And you can see right there behind in the small bottle, which I actually prefer because it's the better fragrance. This one comes with the added note of lavender, which I do not actually get because it's very faint. Everything else is pretty much the same as the original Mefisto. And in the same veins of this little fellow, Silver Mountain Water from Creed. Out of the three, the best one is the original Mefisto. But this has been so hyped in the online community, especially by one person. But honestly, I wouldn't encourage you to go ahead and purchase a full bottle of this one. I would actually encourage you to purchase the original one, Mefisto, because that one is better. It's better than Silver Mountain Water from Creed. It has better performance than these two, and also the quality of the ingredients is better than Mefisto Gentiluomo and Creed Silver Mountain Water. So purchase the original Mefisto, because actually that's the better one out of these three similar, not identical, but very similar fragrances. Next entry, because I've seen this very hyped in recent times, in the house of Nishane, it's the blue bottle, Ege, or Ailao, whatever you want to call it. This is supposedly a summer fragrance, but it's quite generic, if you ask me. The only important thing in this composition is actually the basil. More specifically, the quantity or the concentration of basil that you get with this one. Afterwards, it turns into a more expensive variant of Nautica Voyage. Because I actually get, every single time that I wear it on my skin, especially in the middle notes, I get the cucumber feeling that Nautica Voyage had. Consider this one to be the niche variant of the very cheap Nautica Voyage. Good quality, good performance, nice scent. You also have some mint inside, but nothing out of the ordinary. And as I said, in recent times, I've seen this one extremely hyped in the online. I don't actually know why. So, what can I say? Give it a try. You might actually enjoy it very much, but honestly, it isn't worth the price. Next entry, from the house of Amouage. Yeah, this one. And this one is called Jubilation 25. You already know it. It's a cult classic. It's a cult fragrance. It has a lot of followers, whatnot. Great scent. Unfortunately, piss poor performance. What I have here is the reformulation, the new batches. Very interesting. I get better performance with the reformulation that I got with the classic one, with the original formulation, which I tested a couple of years ago, I think 5 years ago, and I wasn't a big fan of the scent back then. As I said, really beautiful fragrance, quite beautiful. Unfortunately, it isn't worth paying the price considering the performance. With this one, with the new batch, with the reformulation, I usually get about 6 to 7 hours of longevity, with moderate projection in the first 2 hours, and same goes for the sillage. So yeah, 400 euros for a bottle. Yeah, not quite there if you ask me. I wouldn't actually encourage you paying the price, although the scent itself, it's very beautiful. Love the blueberry note inside. Also, you have the beautiful woody accords, the resins and whatnot, the agarwood, the incense, but still, it's too much. Let's go to the next one. The next one, not particularly this fragrance, but the entire house actually. In my honest opinion, it's quite overhyped. Adi Alevan. The fragrance is called Hai Hui. I love the bottle. I actually love the bottles that he creates. These are true works of art. But as I said, I'm not interested in the packaging. I'm interested in the perfume, in what's inside the bottle. I couldn't care less about the box. I couldn't care less about the bottle, with the exception of the atomizer, that actually needs to be a great one. But great design, beautiful, very beautiful bottle, very unique. But the scent inside isn't quite what I expected. I had very high expectations for this fragrance, especially because it's all centered about the fig tree. So I was expecting something very unique, very challenging, very creative, very beautiful. And unfortunately, I quite didn't get it. I already sniffed this fragrance, if you want, in other creations from other houses. It's basically in the same genre, if you want, like what Diptyque created with Philosikos. I don't know, some other examples might be Officina delle Essenze with its Puro Fico, and so on and so forth. Fragrances that are almost identical to this one and that came to the market many years before this one. So I was expecting a lot more based on the hype, based on the reviews, based on the fact that it has some very interesting notes inside the composition. But unfortunately, it's basically all about a very dusty, very dry, very woody fig tree. And that's it. There's nothing unique about this fragrance besides the bottle. So, yeah, high expectations that were not met based on what other people are saying. Yeah, long live product placement. Another fragrance that I truly consider it to be extremely overhyped comes from Clive Christian. Again, a house that might be considered overhyped. The classic L from Clive Christian. Wherever you go, whatever you read, whatever you see, this is considered to be a priceless gem from Clive Christian. Unfortunately, again, I do not share this opinion. It isn't a bad fragrance, but there is something lacking in this one. It's not very, I don't know, robust. It's not something that I consider it's worth paying the very high price. But fortunately, this one was discontinued a couple of years ago. What you can find right now on the market are actually the new releases that are also named L. But this one, being the original one, the classic one, the first formulation and whatnot, unfortunately doesn't manage to impress me at all. Actually, this is my least favorite Clive Christian fragrance that I ever sniffed, and also that I actually have in my collection. Next entry comes from the house of Serge Lutens, and the fragrance is probably one of the most boring fragrances for me ever created, not only in my entire collection. 5 o'clock au gingembre. Yeah, the notes sound quite interesting, but unfortunately on skin the reality is a bit different. Don't really get the tea note, don't really get the ginger note. It's somewhat chaotic, and also it's quite soft. It's actually quite a linear fragrance from start till end, and doesn't impress me either with the performance. Quite a soft fragrance, if you want, stays pretty much glued to the skin, and that's it. That's it. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing spectacular. It isn't a very well-rounded fragrance, to be honest with you. That's why it's my least favorite. And that's why I don't really wear this one, because it really isn't my cup of tea. Pun intended. Okay, let's go to the next fragrance from the house of Kilian. Although I do appreciate the fragrance for what it is, and actually this is the best honey fragrance out there in my book, still it's quite difficult to pull it on, and it's quite difficult to wear it, and it also is quite heavy, extremely heavy, especially on the sweetness. I'm talking about Back to Black from the house of Kilian. Extraordinary, amazing performance with this one. This is nuclear stuff. You don't need to spray more than 2 sprays. Trust me, even 2 are quite enough. But all you get is honey. Sweet, overpowering honey. It's like you are drizzled in honey. That's all. That's why it isn't quite versatile. That's why you cannot really wear this one whenever you want, however you want, however you want to be dressed and whatnot. So yeah, you basically buy this one for your own pleasure when you want to smell like honey, because that's all that I get. Extremely, extremely sweet, overpowering honey. I love honey. I love beeswax in perfumery, but this one, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot to take in. It's a difficult fragrance to pull off, but what can I say? If you manage, then you go ahead, just do it. But for me, unfortunately, I consider it to be quite overhyped, considering the fact that it's a very linear fragrance. From start till end, that's all that you're gonna get. Honey. Another overhyped fragrance is this one. And actually, I do consider this house also to be very overhyped. Fragrance du Bois, the fragrance is Canabis Intense. Yeah, this actually wants to represent their take on the cannabis note. Quite a very weak attempt, if you ask me, because if you are expecting a cannabis bomb with this one, you are going to get very disappointed. Trust me. This isn't basically about cannabis. There is a faint, very faint feeling of cannabis, of weed inside this one, but that's pretty much it. Actually, it doesn't really manage to impress me in terms of performance, in terms of the scent itself, because I do have in my collection better fragrances with the cannabis note. For example, this bad boy from Boys 1920 called Cannabis. This actually smells like the plant. Smells like the plant, feels like it, and has incredible performance compared to Fragrance du Bois, and it costs, I don't know, half the price of Fragrance du Bois. Also, if you want something a bit more complex, with a very beautiful fruity cannabis, Boys 1920, Cannabis Frutata. Absolutely gorgeous perfume. This is actually one of my favorite fragrances throughout warmer seasons, and especially summertime. So yeah, there are better fragrances out there with the note of cannabis, if you like that note. It isn't a note for everyone. It isn't everyone's cup of tea, but still, some people do like it. Next overly hyped fragrance. Yeah, Amorud Wet Stone. Oh boy, every single review that I've seen ever since this fragrance came to the market talks about what a great oceanic aquatic fragrance this is. Yeah, I beg to differ. It isn't an oceanic fragrance. It isn't an aquatic, actually. It does have a slight hint of aquatic accords, but nothing more. This is actually a very green aromatic take, perhaps on an aquatic, but somewhere, I don't know, in the middle of the jungle, besides the river, if you want, but quite far away from the river. This isn't an aquatic per se. This is more of a attempt to an aquatic, but mainly focused on the greenery surrounding the aquatic scenery. Yeah, this is Wet Stone for me. It isn't mineral, it isn't aquatic, this is green, aromatic. Fortunately, it's quite strong and has very good performance otherwise. But don't expect miracles if you're looking for an aquatic fragrance, especially because there are out there better alternatives to what whetstone is. For example, Odesian from Vertus. With this one, you actually get the aquatic feeling. Still, green, aromatic, but this is closer to the ocean, closer to the sea. Not like that one. It's a totally different story. Next entry in this list comes from the house of Acqua di Parma. And this is a discontinued fragrance. There are quite a few years since it got discontinued. I actually don't know, because I haven't checked in the past 2 years how much a bottle of this fragrance costs right now. But Gpro Sardinia from Acqua di Parma. I think that 4 years have passed, if not more, since this one, together with Cedro di Taormina, got discontinued. And everybody, but everybody was ranting at the moment that this was officially discontinued. Everybody was going nuts, going crazy to purchase a bottle and whatnot. What are we gonna do without Ginepro di Sardinia? They were saying. Yeah, if you're interested, this is a 150 ml bottle. PM me, I'm gonna sell it to you because I do not wear it. This is extremely overhyped. Extremely. I actually consider this one to be my least favorite and the worst, actually, fragrance from the entire Blue Mediterraneo lineup. And as you can see, I do have quite a lot of them. I also have Cedro di Taormina, which is absolutely amazing and I simply love it. But it isn't the case for Ginepro di Sardinia. Quite a faint fragrance. In terms of the juniper, in terms of the citruses, it's a somewhat woody aromatic citrusy concoction that manages to do actually nothing. Very poor performance with this one. This actually performs on my skin worse than Bergamotto di Calabria. Believe it or not, which was actually the worst one in terms of performance from the entire collection. But no, Ginepro di Sardinia actually managed to impress me with its atrocious performance, at least on my skin. And where is it? Because I do know that I have the bottle right here. Here it is. This is a totally different story. This one is truly great. But Ginepro di Sardinia isn't. Therefore, I do not understand why it's so hyped. Another hyped fragrance comes from the house of Orto Parisi, and it's this one. Boccanera. To put it simple, Boccanera is Nasomato Black Afghano with an added note of dark chocolate. That's it, nothing more. And actually, because this has happened to me, you don't always, basically I don't usually, most of the times, get the chocolate note. Extremely faint. Just like the lavender note in Viride, which is actually the reincarnation of Nasomato Absinthe. So yeah, keep this in mind. Boccanera is Nasomato Black Afghano with a so-called dark chocolate note. Nothing more, nothing less. Performs the same, smells the same, at least to me, and at least on my skin. Yeah, extremely overhyped, if you ask me, but what can I say? If you want to test it out, if you want to try it out, go ahead, try it. It's your money. You know the drill. Next entry. Another very hyped fragrance. Yeah. La Mar by Kajal. I've also spoken about this fragrance in one of my latest videos when I was talking about despicable fragrances in my collection. Fragrances that I actually do not like, I do not enjoy. And this was featured in that video also. This is a very beautiful bottle. I truly love the bottle, but what's inside is simply atrocious. It's the only word to describe this fragrance. I don't know why people describe it to be a masterpiece, to be so beautifully blended and whatnot. It isn't. It isn't. It's a synthetic mess, and that's it. It's a very synthetic mess. It doesn't shine in terms of quality. It doesn't shine in terms of performance. It's actually quite bad, if you ask me. And you basically do not understand anything from this fragrance when it comes to the ingredients found inside. Supposedly you should have pineapple, fig and whatnot. Woody accords, trust me, they are nowhere to be found. This is just a very sweet synthetic mess. And that's it. That's all that you get. At least that's all that I got every single time that I wore this fragrance. And if you ask me, it isn't worth paying the price for it. And my last entry, of course, we cannot forget about this one, because this has to be one of the most overhyped fragrances ever, till date. Yeah. You get it? Till date. Date for Men from Fragrance One. Holy mother of crap. As I said it, my most despicable, despisable, hated fragrances in my entire collection, this is Numero Uno. This is the #1 spot. This is the star of the show. I honestly cannot understand how people, normal people, can hype something like this. This is extremely poor quality in terms of ingredients. In terms of the scent itself, it's a huge synthetic sweet mess with some very artificial dried fruits, accords, and whatnot. This is so bad. I honestly don't want to insult anyone, but if you are going to pay the price they are asking for this, then again, I have to express my condolences and to say that I honestly am not impressed by your loss, by your financial loss. You deserve it. You deserve each other. You deserve the fragrance deserves you, and its creator, the mastermind behind it, deserves to get your money. Fortunately, and I didn't say this in the previous video, I did not pay for this one. No, I got this in a swap, knowing what it is, and the only reason for which I wanted it in my collection was mainly to talk about it, because I do not like talking about things that I do not have in my collection. I know all the creations from this house, I'm familiarized with them, but trust me, I will never, never go and pay anything for something like this. Numero Uno, again, if you want, in the most overly hyped fragrances, at least that I own in my collection, because I'm always referring to what I have, to what I own. I cannot talk about things that I had in the past, things that are no longer present in my collection. Therefore, this is the main condition for this type of videos. Okay, we are at the end of this clip. As always, my friends, don't let me discourage you in trying these fragrances, in testing them. I actually do encourage you to go ahead, to test them out, but buy small quantities. Buy decants, buy, I don't know, samples, just for you in order to test them out on your own skin, just in order for you to have some opinions based on quite a limited experience with smaller quantities. But at least you may end up saving a lot of money instead of going and blind buying them because, I don't know, X or Y or Z on YouTube or on social media is encouraging you to go ahead and blind buy them because they are so great, so unique, so creative, so beautiful, so powerful, and whatnot. Always remember this, perfumery is subjective. It doesn't matter what anyone says, even me, especially me. It matters what happens on your own skin. That's the secret. Your own skin, your skin chemistry. How they react on my skin, I'm telling you and letting you know in my content on my channel. But what happens on you, this I do not know. And this is for you to find out. As always, my friends, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Be safe. Be good. Peace.